And let's now bring in Rania Lawendy, CEO Action for Humanity Canada. Rania, good evening and thank you for your time.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
With internet and power knocked out of Gaza, what are we learning about the latest challenges that humanitarian organizations are facing on the ground?
Well, basically, they're having to function in the dark, right? So we're not able to access our aid workers. We are one of the only organizations with registered offices in Palestine, and we have staff in the occupied West Bank and in Gaza. Since the blackout, I have not been able to reach none of our any of our staff in Gaza. We knew that the bombing would be escalating once that happened.
Mhm.
The actual infrastructure actually has also been bombed. So what we're seeing is over 47% of the actual infrastructure of Gaza is gone in terms of its water sanitation plants, its schools, its hospitals, the mosques, the churches. Even we're seeing agriculture, the farmlands, bakeries. So they're being hit in a way that this is unprecedented for us as aid workers. We've never seen this type of escalation and these type of attacks. It's become a complete genocide.
Let me ask you about the risks and the challenges that are being faced by those aid workers on the ground, because at this point of time, you're saying you've lost complete communication with them. How many are there on the ground that are working for your organization?
So we have about a dozen that are working as staff members,
Mhm.
and there are people obviously helping with that. The problem is this. So even before this happened, during the bombings, it's very difficult to get aid in. So we already have aid within Gaza, so
Mhm.
not coming in through the Rafah border. We already have aid in Gaza. It took us 3 days to get aid to the medical supplies to the Shifa hospital. We had to do it through ambulances. You're having to basically stay away from the bombs. You never know when they're dropping. And it becomes almost impossible for aid workers to deliver what they need to deliver, whether it's the NFI kits, whether it's food aid, water. Action for
Right.
Humane is one of the places where we have solar powered wells that's still supplying water until that gets bombed. So it's extremely difficult, and not knowing whether they're alive or dead right now is horrifying for us.
Yes. And this is at a time when you're saying that at least your organization has aid within Gaza. But talk to us about the other side as well. We understand the supply lines have been blocked, and there are hundreds of trucks that continue to wait at the border with aid, and they're unable to enter Gaza.
Yeah, so let me tell you, like the viewers don't know this, but on a daily basis, around 500 trucks would go into Gaza without there being this type of war. I shouldn't call it a war, but without this type of genocide happening. So since the humanitarian corridor opened up just a little bit, you're seeing about 50 trucks that have gone in. And like you said, there's hundreds of trucks waiting to go in. This is a drop in the bucket. And not just that, what is extremely important is that fuel be able to get, especially to the hospitals, to be able to aid the injured. There's over 17,000 injured that will die without the critical care that they need. And so they're not able, and the trucks that are getting in also are just the Red Crescent, like the international UN, the Red Crescent, Red Cross, and some trucks that have come in from Egypt. It is in no way close to what is needed, and
Absolutely.
we have been calling on a complete ceasefire, and especially, even if not a ceasefire right now, a pause in a large pause, so that the humanitarian organizations can do what they need to do. And we need to open up that border, because we have kids that are dying of dehydration. Half the population, by the way, of Gaza is children. There are over 50,000 women who are pregnant currently in Gaza. And so that's without even the hospitals where there's been a bombing, many bombings of hospitals, of schools, like I said. So, and a lot of people, especially even in the Shifa hospital, they're using that for refuge. And so without this aid coming in, whether it's food, whether it's fuel, whether it's water, you're going to see that death toll go up by the thousands and
Right.
thousands.
Rania, you, of course, are a CEO of a multinational sort of an organization. You've worked in several of these areas that need to provide aid to people across the world. Let me ask you, at this given point of time, there are back channel talks, negotiations that are taking place as we speak. Qatar, of course, is mediating some talks between Hamas and Israel. How hopeful are you of the international community coming in together and being able to come to some sort of an understanding on the resolution? And there is I don't know whether it's going to be a humanitarian corridor, whether it's going to be a complete ceasefire. We don't know. But how hopeful are you?
I'm not going to lie to you. It's, I am one of those people that also speaks to politicians and does advocacy work, obviously, as an organization. The international community is within the G6 and G7 nations is extremely upsetting. The rhetoric that we're seeing coming out of the States, out of Canada, out of the UK, out of Germany, all of these countries, unfortunately, are not grasping the gravity that we're seeing. How many children need to die? How many people need to die? It is against international law for there to be collective punishment. We all know this. We know that there was a vote in the UN from the General Assembly, which unfortunately is non-binding, binding, even though it's passed through. Israel actually, right after that vote, increased and escalated their bombings throughout the night. We know that there was a complete blackout since then. We know that there has been ground troop invasion since then. So I'm I'm not sure, but what I can say is there is, the international community has to be on the right side of history on this, and
Right.
we have to be the voice for the voiceless. And all of us across the world, we're all, have to stand for humanity and say enough is enough.
Right. Rania Lawendy, CEO of Action for Humanity Canada, appreciate your time and thank you for joining us, Rania.
Thank you so much for having me.